Where we ask. I'm sorry. I'm gonna turn the mic all the way off. Welcome back to the ABP Podcast on the Enneagram personality types, where we ask big questions about small numbers. After playing rock, paper, scissors, it was decided that Belle and I would do co-host for this episode. Today's special guest.
Hello, my name is Gabriel.
Hi, Gabe.
Hey, Gabe.
Okay. So, Gabe, to start off, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Maybe start with your role on campus, major, hobbies you enjoy, and then what Enneagram type you are.
Absolutely. So, I'm currently NRA for second floor of Hood. Just essentially, I spend my time doing a lot of things with my residents, going to events, just caring about the campus overall. And for my free time, I play the ukulele, go to the gym, and stuff like that, yes. Lastly, I'm a psychology major, and I am a 5 in the Enneagram type.
Ooh, a 5.
Uh-oh, a 5. Watch out.
All right. So, before we dig into more questions, I'd like to give the listeners a brief description of what the Enneagram Type 5 is. Type 5s are known as the Investigator. They are defined by their desire to conserve their energy and to avoid being drained by engagement with the outside world. They focus on being knowledgeable and competent so that they can be as self-sufficient as possible. Gabe, would you say this describes you?
Yes, absolutely. Especially in the last part. I strive knowledge. I've always been fond to just getting to know more stuff about the world. Not only in the areas that I focus on, especially like in psychology in this case, but also in just everything else, like chemistry, biology, mathematics, whatever it is. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge, little knowledge, but in a lot of things.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's cool. So kind of well-rounded, it seems like.
Yeah.
Okay, so based on your major, psychology, do you believe everyone can be sorted into an Enneagram type?
Absolutely. Now, that is very controversial because the Enneagram type is the one that has the least amount of sources and research in for the psychology part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But just as any other personality type of form, everyone can be just assigned to one and just saying that, oh, you're a 5, you're a 2, you're a 1, whatever it is. At the end of the day, yes, everybody can be.
Would you say that sometimes people more fit into one category than the other? Or would you say there's ever a certain situation where they completely fit into one type category? Or are there always going to be like one person is almost completely a 9, but they've got like some 8 tendencies sometimes? Or
Right. So as humans, we are not just entitled to be just one type of thing. So one type of personality doesn't define who we are, essentially. So at the end of the day, it is mostly like, yes, you could be a 5, for example, in my case, but I also have tendencies to be a 1 and stuff like that. So yes, everybody can partake in any other type of personality. That's why there's so many different ones out there that everybody can know. So
That's interesting. Okay. So moving on, would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert? Or would you think you're somewhere in between?
So before, I would have definitely said an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely for me having a lot of alone time and just having to recharge my social battery
Mm-hmm.
every single day and
Yeah.
whatnot. Nowadays, I do consider myself a little bit more in the middle side, definitely towards the extrovert side.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I'm missing people most of the days. Like I don't really need to recharge myself for my social battery. I just feel like I need more people in my life rather than just isolating from everybody.
Yeah, that's interesting. Could you like give me or tell me why you like want to be around people more now than you did before?
Yeah, so I think it's easily said as I've just felt more confident in my last few years.
Mhm.
So it just feels like I can speak more out of my mind. I feel like I can show a lot of people what my real personality is.
Mhm.
So essentially not just trying to hide who I am and pretending to be somebody else, which
Mhm.
was when I was more on like the introvert side.
Yeah.
Just pretending to be somebody else so that I would just fit in to
Mhm.
people. But
Yeah.
now it feels like it's the opposite way. So people fit in with me, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Or I fit in with everybody.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. So relating this to your life on campus, if you say you're more introverted, do you tend to go to more events or I guess surround yourself with more people?
So if you're really, really tired, are you gonna go to a Black Room Cafe performance now, or are you gonna stay in the dorm?
So what type of tired are we talking about?
You're exhausted.
Like socially drained.
All aspects. You're
All
exhausted.
aspects,
Mhm.
even after the gym kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of good because I just feel like it depends on the day. Even though I'm tired, I still do a lot of other things that I don't feel like waste my energy on other areas, if that makes sense. As of right now, I'm exhausted, but I'm here, you know? So, answering your question, really, I feel like if I'm completely exhausted, even mentally exhausted and socially exhausted, then I'll most preferably be in my room, maybe even with a single friend, just being there but quiet kind of
Mhm.
thing,
Yeah,
or even just by myself,
I
but
feel that.
doing something that actually makes me happy or moving or thinking even.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, so let's go more into an Enneagram specific type of question. So um I'm gonna read you what the core fear of a type 5 is according to research. And then I want to see if you can relate to this. So it says that the type 5's core fear is to be overwhelmed by their own needs and the needs of others. So think of core fear as the place that you don't want to be in. So think of your goal as a person, and then think of your core fear as being the opposite of that goal, if that makes sense.
My core fear being overwhelmed by my needs and the needs of others. That is very interesting. I don't think I have read before that part of the fear in the Enneagram Type 5. I remember it being before at least fear of like, what was it exactly? Not being able to achieve the things in the future.
Hmm.
So being overwhelmed by my needs, yes, I believe that's a complete true fear. But being overwhelmed by others' needs, then I do not believe I would agree with that. It just feels like I do not care as much for other people's needs as their others, like the type 2, I believe.
So a further elaboration of that, it says, to cope with this fear, they withdraw from relationships and maintain a minimalist lifestyle, focusing on the intellectual as an escape from the demands of the world. Does that make more sense?
Okay, yes, that
Yeah.
makes absolutely
Okay.
more sense.
Nice. So what you would say then, like taking on other people's needs and taking on your own needs, that's overwhelming. Is that a fear?
Fear of my own individual one and being overwhelmed by my needs, yes. By others, maybe not. But definitely feeling like the part of like consuming more intellectual abilities, knowledge, whatever it is, it's just like it could be like kind of like a stoppage for me, which I wouldn't like in that kind of sense.
Interesting. Okay, so another question is about boundaries. Boundaries is something that's really important in the life of honestly everybody, especially college students when there's always so much going on and you're involved in a lot of things. So, do you find it difficult to set boundaries? And if you do set boundaries, what does that look like?
I do not find it difficult. I think that was
There we
pretty
go.
obvious. Yes. But how do I do it? I think mainly maybe it's the community culture over here at Greenville University, or maybe it's just the Midwest generally. But I do feel like a lot of people here tend to think that by saying no to somebody, they would start not liking them. So I believe that a lot of people here in the Midwest, the culture is to be kind of like a yes sayer, or just let me help you with this, let me help you with that, whether or not they really need that.
Or explain why they can't, or make excuses, or
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's very hard for people to say no. What I do think, and what I think is the best way to just set boundaries, is by saying no. That sounds redundant, but in a way is saying no, and also remembering that people are not going to get mad at you just because you're saying no to a favor.
Yeah. So let's think about this. Say a close friend says, "Hey, can you take me to the grocery store?" And you don't want to, or you can't. Are you going to say no, or are you going to say, "No, I can't right now, but let's find a time when I can do this"?
Yeah, I tend to find solutions on other stuff. So if I don't have the time, or I don't want to, or I cannot take them at that moment, I'll say no. I don't mind that they're a close friend, because I know they will trust me and they will be like, okay, you're busy. I know my type of friends and how they
Mhm.
will be, how they will react. But I will find a little bit more solutions for them. Like say, okay, here, borrow my car, or hey, this guy is also like going there, like he maybe could take you, and that kind of stuff. But if I don't have any more options, I just say no, and that's it. Give my reason, goodbye.
Would that apply also to people that you're not close friends with? Like if somebody says, since you're an RA, if somebody were to say, "Hey, Gabe, I need you. Can you do this for me?" And you're like, "No, you don't." You're like, "No, I don't want to," or you can't. Would you say no and leave it at that, or would you also try to help them?
No, I do try to help them. Especially as an RA, of course, like we are there to help students. That's our main goal, our main thing. What describe us really as a resident assistant. But at the end of the day, yes, I normally will say no, even if they really need me in that case, but I cannot do it at that moment. But again, whether a close friend or not, I will look for solutions for them.
So, okay, let me just clarify. If you needed to just say no, you could just say no to somebody and you wouldn't feel bad about it. Except for in this culture, you know that people will take that differently.
No,
So like, would you just be able to tell somebody no and leave it at that, or would your conscience be like, "Oh, I should tell them why I can't"?
yeah, no, I can say, depending on what it is, I cannot really think of an example in my head right now, but depending on what it is, I would just say no. Maybe a sorry, maybe, but no.
But you could.
Yes, I can.
Wow. See, that's crazy because like we've talked to people that couldn't say that, which is weird because I don't know if it's a personality type. I guess we'll see as we interview more people, but that's really interesting. So when it comes to being an RA, this is the last question for you. When it comes to being an RA, you've got stuff all the time. I'm sure meetings, and you've also got school, and you've got whatever else you're doing. So what does setting boundaries look like as an RA? How do you preserve time?
So I think, well, most of the time I also have other type of work outside of being an RA. So I really do like focus on that. Luckily this year I haven't had many classes, just because as a senior, it just feels like the workload is a lot lesser, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And but the one thing that I remember, and I want to kind of give it out there, is that I put in my door for people not to knock after midnight and until around 8 a.m. when I wake up. And that is just because a lot of people tend to be locked out of their rooms at 4 a.m. and they just wake me up, and then I just gotta go and open the door for them. It's not nice. So I've said that before. I've put that out there, and I remember Myah telling me how she respected that, even though she was a little bit like didn't like it as much. But I'm just setting boundaries because I'm also a student and a person just like them, and nobody would be like to be woken up at 4 a.m. in the morning just because they got locked out.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's good.
All right. Gabe, thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. Keep an eye out for another episode on another Enneagram type on the Papyrus. Thank you for listening to the ABP Podcast.
And that's a wrap.